Hey everyone, Wylock here, welcome back. Quick 30-second explanation for those of you that may not be familiar with Warhammer 40k. Warhammer 40k is a mass miniatures war game where you set up your armies and deploy them, and then you begin the game proper. But not all units have to be set up at the beginning of the game. Some units have a special ability that lets you hold them in reserve and deploy them at a later time, the advantage being you know what's happened and you have more flexibility in where you can put it on the battlefield. But these rules are written differently for each unit, even though they're mechanically identical. For example, Space Marines Terminator Squad has Teleport Strike. During deployment, you can set up this unit in a Teleportarium chamber instead of placing them on the battlefield. At the end of any year, blah blah blah, put it on the field. Compare this, for example, with the Striking Scorpions unit from the Craftworld Eldar army. They have Masters of Stealth. It says, during deployment, you can set up this unit in the shadows instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of any of your movement phases, the unit can stalk from their hiding place, set it up on the battlefield, etc. Mechanically, as far as the game's rules are concerned, those are identical. They just have this little flavor sentence at the beginning, which I think is really neat. And I got to thinking, well, rather than just have the models sitting off of the game table until they're deployed later on, what if I actually had a teleportarium that I could have them sitting on, right? It's just for show, there's no advantage to the game or anything, but why not? So let's go build one. The idea is that we'll have these teleportation pads that the models will sit on, and it will be a two-tiered room. So I found these wooden discs in my junk drawer from a pack of random wooden bits from the crafting store. I set them on corrugated cardboard and measured out the shape of the room to fit 5 of them. I cut that out, then traced and made a second copy, but cut away some of the second copy to give me just the upper tier. I placed the circles in their future home and traced them just to help me plan things going forward. Poked holes in the centers, this is what the electronics will be routed through later on. And then chipboard, I love this stuff. If you're new here, this is the grayish brownish slab at the back of a legal pad, but I buy it in bulk on Amazon. This is graphics medium chipboard, and there's a link in the video description below. Anyway, I cut some strips and hot glued them along the front upper tier. Then cut some double corrugated strips for the underside, just to provide the understructure, something to glue to, and hot glued them on there. Christmas light bulb, the LED kind, not the old school kind. I removed the bulb to expose the LED itself, and then also chopped off as much of that plastic spike as I could, and bent the leads outwards. Stuck it into one of the holes, and hot glued it in place from the underside. Then soldered on lead wires, leaving plenty of slack to work with later on. With all 5 prepared, I then hot glued the upper tier to the lower, taking care to make sure they were lined up. I based the cardboard with black, and then this is cross-stitch mesh. You could find it at any crafting store, Walmart, that kind of thing. It's like 60 cents for a sheet, wherever the sewing materials are. But it is smooth plastic, so it needs to be primed. I prefer Krylon matte primer, and ideally use black, so you don't have to come back and paint it black. Anyway, once it is black, overbrushed with gunmetal, and then sporadically overbrushed with a shimmering silver and copper. I cut shapes to fit the floors and glued them down, applying glue along the edges and also near the LEDs, since that section of the grating is going to be covered up by the pads later on anyway. Then I clad the sides with chipboard. I decided on a 15mm height below the lower tier, so like there's a 15mm tall cavity underneath the whole piece where I can do all the wiring. And I made sure to keep the top of these edges flush with the grating. That's going to be very important for later. On these back sides, I used much larger slabs. 2 of them are sloped, so it's sort of like an amphitheater. Now those large panels are kind of flimsy, so I used cardstock and ripped some long patches and just hot glued those onto the back to really solidify everything. Then I based all that chipboard with black. While it was drying, I took leftover empty sprues outside and primed them, and based them black. I also went through my leftover Space Marines vehicle bits bag for ideas, found these 2 manholes from a tank kit, so I primed those black also. Then while those were drying, I mounted 2 more Christmas lights. This time I left the bulbs on. I used a standard office hole punch to put holes in each flanking wall and mounted the light in it using hot glue on the back side, soldered up the wires just like the others. For the sprues, I just started chopping up segments and hot gluing them down. I made sure to avoid where the 4 pegs of the teleport pads are going to be, and you can see I kind of wrapped it around the base as well. It continues wherever it goes around a corner. Notice those tank bits are around the LEDs, and that Aquila up there, I modeled it and then 3D printed it. Then I did the edge trim, so this is strips of chipboard about a 1/4 inch wide, baste them in black before attaching them, and then just start hot gluing them along all those edges, which very nicely covers up both the exposed edge of the vertical slabs and the bead of glue under the grating from earlier. At this point there's a lot of freshly cut ends and some spots that need touch up, so I went back in with black and just touched everything up to get ready for the next step. Then I dry brushed the main piece. Basically everything except the grating got a healthy dry brush of gunmetal. Followed by a light selective dry brush with shimmering silver. Quick and easy metal look without using a single wash. Now, I would not be a properly obnoxious YouTuber if I didn't bring up 25 seconds of announcements, but really, if you like this stuff, then please like, subscribe, reminder bell. Want to support the channel totally free? Use my Amazon affiliate links in the description below when you buy stuff. Totally transparent to you, the only difference is that I get a small kick from Amazon for having referred you. Our sponsor is Heroes Horde, an outstanding source of models for you 3D printers out there, including but not limited to all True Tiles lines. And don't miss my D&D 5th edition one-shot modules over on the DM's Guild. Candles. Same as episode 113 when we made the tavern dressing pieces. This is DM Scotty's toothpick method. So coat the toothpick with hot glue except for the last couple of millimeters of the tip. Then chop to the desired height and hot glue it to the piece. Dribble some hot glue around the base and then down the edge so like the wax has been melting. Base coated with beige, and then washed with Army Painter Soft Tone, just a light brown wash. And then painted the tip yellow, and then just the top half of the tip orange. You can also put a dot of red on top. The teleport pads themselves are based in black, then dry brushed with gunmetal, and edge highlighted with shimmering silver. I hot glued some ornate beads on the bottom to function as pedestals, create that offset. Then with a medium brush, I painted some jagged lightning with plain white originating from the center. With the airbrush, I chased those lines with white to make them sort of glow. Then I chased that with blue. I didn't feel the color was saturated enough afterwards, so I then hit it with a glaze of blue wash. Actually, it's not a glaze, I just hit it with the airbrush using blue wash. It's Army Painter Blue Tone. Then back to white, drawing a very close, very tight beam, retracing the lightning again. And finally, with a fine tip brush, bold white jagged lines in the center of the lightning to give the final result. Electronics, I glued together two 3-volt watch batteries to create a 6-volt battery, and all 7 LEDs are wired in parallel, not series. More battery draw that way, but easier to design and gives really nice bright LED performance. At this point, it's just a matter of hot gluing the platforms on. Good dollop of hot glue on the 4 pedestals, and stick it in place. And so it is game night here in the armory. I'm getting ready to film another battle report, and I thought I would show you the Teleportarium in use for the first time. So the other guy deployed, and over here you can see I actually have a squad of Terminators literally on a Teleportarium waiting to be beamed down. This army, by the way, was an eBay rescue that I stripped down and then repainted, and these were a speed paint. So they're just tabletop standard, but I'll get some close-ups because why not? We're here already. You can use the older school non-LED Christmas lights, but they will draw more battery. I'm using these because we had a whole bunch of LED strings from last year go bad. I don't know if it was a bad batch or what. We'll get in for a close-up on the lightning effect. This I picked up from another YouTuber cited above. And I figured you'd want to see what it looks like in the dark, so here you go. For the candles, I actually had considered using the orange and yellow or white Christmas lights and coating them with hot glue so that they would actually glow, but I think they'd be too large for scale. No idea what the battery draw is on these 7 LEDs. They have an inherent resistance. I have no idea what it is, so I don't have a resistor in the circuit, but they seem to be working out great. I already have several hours of runtime on this 6-volt battery that I cobbled together. By the way, if you want introduction to custom circuit design and construction, see episode 56. Oh, one other tip I forgot to mention earlier. I painted some shimmering silver on the underside of the pads just to help with reflection and help that light glow out from the bottom. No idea how helpful it was. But overall, I am supremely happy with how this turned out. And I want to do more of these mini dioramas for the reserve scenes from all the different army lists, so leave a comment below with which ones you want me to build. If you like this particular project, here's 2 more you might want to check out. Also, enjoy this community showcase. I'm Wylock, thanks for joining, and I'll see you next time.